John Schneider said, what? We will react to the Seattle GM's recent comments on the offensive line and how they plan to address the offensive guard position this offseason here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Before we go any further in today's show, a big thank you to all of the 12s for helping us reach 63,000 subscribers on the channel. We couldn't have done it without you. And I got to tell you, it has been my honor and privilege to be the host of this show for now close to 3 years here in a few weeks. And I got to tell you, I am so amazed by the support that you guys have shown over the years. And we keep on rocking and rolling. Can't wait till we get to 100,000 subscribers someday. Let's add you on board and make sure you're subscribed for the latest happenings on your favorite team. Not only do you get to hear from yours truly each and every day, but we're talking news and rumors. We're bringing you live shows twice a week. We have breaking news, Q&A mailbags. We're covering the offseason like no one else is, from the draft, trades, free agency, and more. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Let's get at least 20 subs off today's video. Make it happen. We'll get started with today's show. John Schneider sounds off as he clarified some of his past comments that he made a year ago in regards to the offensive guard position. And if you need a little refresher of what Schneider said around this time a year ago, Schneider was asked about the offensive guard spot, and he said that it is one that is overdrafted and overpaid. And a lot of people took that as, oh, so John Schneider doesn't value the offensive guard position. He does not want to invest in the position. And then we saw what happened in the offseason, and he did not spend much in free agency on the guard spot, bringing in Laken Tomlinson. That didn't really work. He drafted Christian Haynes in the third round, and Christian Haynes did not play that well, so you get the idea. So then the question that was asked, does Seattle not value the offensive guard position? And on his radio show that he did this past week with Seattle Sports, he said that the need at the position outweighs the talent pool, the options that are available. Let's dive in more what Schneider said. I would say the statement, I guess, it's not a level of importance. It's extremely important. It's highly valued. But we still, to this day, because of the dearth of talent at the position, will overpay at that position and will overdraft at that position. So the question then becomes, is this just the price of doing business now at the offensive guard spot, where whether it be the draft or free agency, that if you're going to be good at that spot, do you just have to simply overpay for what you're getting for? That's a question that John Schneider and this Seattle organization has to be asking themselves right now. Schneider saying the following: we've been guilty of it, and we probably will be guilty of it in the future as well. It's just based on a level of talent. It's a position that everybody's looking for, right? And so with that said, there's some truth to what Schneider is saying here, that the offensive guard spot tends to get overpaid and overvalued for the production that you tend to get at the spot. He's not wrong about that. But where he is wrong is the idea that you can just run away from your problems and eventually not address this issue. This is something for Seattle that they have not fixed, that they haven't dealt with appropriately, not just this year, but for a number of years. All right? And eventually, if you're John Schneider and the Seattle Seahawks, you have to bite the bullet at some point and say, we got to do it. We just have to accept that, hey, we're going to overpay for this, and if we're going to do this right, if we're going to fix this position accordingly, that it's going to cost us something to do. And it might be a guy like Trey Smith, potentially in free agency, who, I'll be honest, guys like him don't come available that too often of that talent level, but it would come with a price. Or whether it's using a first-round pick on an offensive guard, which John Schneider has not wanted to do. Eventually, you're going to have to, in the time just might be now. Do you believe in John Schneider? How confident are you in the Seahawks GM as we approach another offseason? It's our pinned comment today. You might get an ad break while the ad's playing. Let us know what you think. Type B for believe, D for don't. Let us know in the comments section below. One thing that John Schneider pointed to was the Super Bowl being an example of the guard position and what can go wrong as we saw with the Kansas City Chiefs this past year. If you need a little refresher on what happened in that game, Joe Thuney, who's one of the best guards in all of football, had to play the left tackle spot. Mike Calindo stepped up and played the left guard spot with Thuney sliding over, and it was just a disaster. It was one of the worst offensive guard performances we've seen ever in the Super Bowl. It was that bad. And Schneider pointed out to that saying, hey, look, if you don't have the offensive guard situation figured out, you can get exposed pretty fast. Here's what he said. We talked last week about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, what happened there. That was a rough go for those guys. I would say there's probably about 2 or 3 teams that have really good offensive lines. I'm talking college football, pro football, and everything. And I think he's right about that part. Sure, there are just a few teams that have great offensive lines that you can point to. But that isn't an excuse for allowing the problem that's there to get to this point. One example I point to, look at the Washington Commanders last offseason, who completely reworked their offensive line. We've talked about it in the past, gone into details here on this program before. They didn't spend a whole lot, and yet their offensive line was dramatically improved. Was it great? No, but it sure as hell was a lot better than Seattle's offensive line, and they didn't spend a ton to do it, and they made it work. So, yes, John is right. There's very few great offensive lines in all levels of football, but that doesn't dismiss what they've done and give them an excuse for having such a lackluster line. More from Schneider, saying the following. The philosophy is not that we're not going to overpay guards. We probably will because we have to, right? But you have to be smart with those decisions. So we're going to overpay a guard and lose out on a defensive tackle. No, we'd rather pay the player that we think is a better talent. It's kind of like drafting for need in the draft. Now, Johnny can say this all he wants, all right? He can tell me that, yeah, we like some of those guards out there. We'd like to invest in it. Saying all the right things, all right? But let's actually see something happen there, all right? John, if we are going to sit here and think that this situation is going to get fixed, all right, we need to see actual results. Put your money where your mouth is, John Schneider. If you are sitting here saying that you want to invest in the offensive guard spot, that it needs to be taken care of, then do something about it. All right? Let's ask you, will the Seahawks offensive line get fixed? What are you thinking here? Type Y for yes, N for no. Chime in the comments section and let us know if you think the O-line is getting fixed or not. We have hats available on sale for up to 50% off now at chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. All sorts of different hats to choose from. You see we have several on screen right now, from the ball cap style to the flat bill. There's plenty of different hats to choose from, and you can go see yourself right now at chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. We have these as well as several others, and we also have other Seahawks merchandise that you can go check out for yourself. It's all in one place, chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. That's chatsports.com/Seahawks hats to get yours today. So one thing that Schneider talked about was that they are looking at guards in the draft and that they are looking at some young talent. And, of course, they're going to be heading to the scouting combine here in the next couple of days in Indianapolis. And this is what he had to say about that spot heading into next week. I worked with somebody that used to say a guard is a guard and you don't pay them. I did work with somebody like that in the past, but that's not really the case with us. It's really like, okay, we have to put a value on people at the end of the day. We'll see it this weekend, too, when we go down to the NFL Scouting Combine. A guy might be a solid backup in our eyes, and he's going to get paid like a difference maker which is 2 grades up. What's the saying? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which I think would be the case of what John Schneider is talking about there, of how they view it compared to how other teams view it. But here's the deal. Seattle has no time to waste here. All right? Time is not of the essence. Whether it's in the draft, free agency, trades, whatever it may be, Schneider has to figure this situation out right here and right now when it comes to this offensive line. Because as we've said before, and I'll say it again, the only thing that holds Seattle back from being a playoff team in 2025 is this offensive line situation. And I'll say this, when you look at the guards in this draft, you do have some options potentially, but do you have time for them to develop and get to where they need to be? Kiper's top guards in this draft include Tyler Booker from Alabama, Armand Mimbo. We've talked about him extensively on this program from Mizzou. People wonder, is he going to be a guard or is he going to be a tackle at the next level? He played tackle at Mizzou. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. You talk about an adjustment, taking a big jump, going from the FCS level all the way to the National Football League would be a big jump. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. I got the chance to meet Donovan Jackson at the Cotton Bowl. Great guy, great teammate, well-liked, well-respected. And then Jonah S. from Arizona, also on this list as well. And I'll say this, when it comes to the guards, you hear John say that they have their interest on certain guys in the draft. All 5 of these guys, according to Mel Kiper Jr. of ESPN, the man who enjoys eating pumpkin pie for breakfast and watching The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson at 11:30 every night, Mel does not have a first-round grade on any offensive guards in this draft. He does not have any of them in his top 25 of his prospect rankings. So if you're John Schneider here, if you listen to Mel, if you use just Mel as a baseline, then it kind of goes back to what John is saying here, that you are going to have to overdraft and overpay for an offensive guard potentially. Now other experts think Booker and Mimbo have first-round grades, but Kiper does not feel that way, at least right now anyway. Who is a guard Seattle should draft? We've gone over a few names. Who comes to mind to you? Weigh in the comment section. Give us a name and let us know. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. For the latest happenings on your favorite team all offseason long, subscribe now for free. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us.